This is one of the latest subwoofers from KEF. This is the Kube 15 MIE, and MIE stands for Music Integrity Engine, which is built into the digital signal processing for this subwoofer. Now, this subwoofer is a part of a full line of subwoofers they have, which is an 8-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch, and the big boy here, the 15-inch. Now, all of the subwoofers basically look like this. It's got the speaker grill cloth across the front and around the sides. And up top, you have a gloss black surface finish with the KEF logo. And I have to say, this looks really good. It actually reminds me a lot of their reference series speakers. Now, as I was saying, the subwoofers in this range share a lot of similarities, not just their design, but also the connections on the back, which I'll go over in a minute, and they're all sealed boxes. The difference is going to basically be the driver up front, which this has the 15-inch driver, and obviously the cabinets are going to be different sizes. This is roughly 20 inches, excuse me, in all the basic dimensions: height, width, and depth. So this is a relatively large subwoofer. Here we are around back, and there's just a few things that I want to point out here about connections and different things that you can do with this subwoofer. First of all, KEF does sell a wireless connection kit, and what that allows you to do is connect the subwoofer to your AV receiver or your processor wirelessly. You don't have to run a wire to the subwoofer, but you do need power. Okay, you do need a power cable, just no other cable other than that. Now, that connection kit actually connects up here in this wireless expansion port right here. So if you purchase that, and I'll leave a link in the description below, this is where you would connect it on the subwoofer. Now, they also have EQ tuning for your subwoofer placement. If you place it in the middle of a room or, kind of away from a wall, pretty far from a wall, you have one setting. If you place it in against a wall, like I have it here, you have a different setting. And if you place it in a corner, you have a different setting. So you can get the right tuning for the subwoofer. I think that's a good thing. They also have crossover and volume adjustments here. The main power connection and power switch is down here. Again, you will need to connect this to power, okay? Because this is a powered subwoofer. And then over here are the connections, whether it be LFE, like an RCA connection, or high-level speaker connections. There isn't a balanced connection on this, so if you need balanced out from your AV processor, then you will need to go from balanced to a single-ended RCA connection for this subwoofer. Now, KEF reached out to me and asked if I wanted to review this subwoofer, and my instant reaction was yes. Anytime they ask, I pretty much say yes, because I reviewed several of their speakers, including these right here that I own. I actually purchased these, and I liked them, so I was like, yes. But I started looking at the specs for the subwoofer, and quite frankly, I got a little bit concerned about the power number. I saw it was basically 300 watts RMS, or up to 300 watts RMS. I was like, is that going to be enough to really adequately drive a 15-inch driver, even in a sealed box? So when I brought this into the room, I set it all up, ran the room EQ and all that kind of stuff that I needed to do just to make sure it was all balanced in here. And I began watching movies on my full setup here, the Arendal Sound 1723S. And I have to say, when I was watching Jurassic Park, Chapter 11, you first see the Tyrannosaurus Rex with the kids in the Ford SUV. And what I noticed at normal listening level was that this subwoofer delivers tight, clean bass when you're listening. But then I decided to go up to reference level to see how it would do. I put some earmuffs over my ears and pulled out my SPL meter. And at reference level, this room at my main listening position was like 110 dB. It was loud in here. But again, the Kube 15 was delivering, and I was impressed. I turned it down a little bit, pulled off the earmuffs, and listened, minus 10 dB from reference. So it was still really loud, but, something I could tolerate for a minute. And I did notice that the bass wasn't as full as I was expecting it to be, but it was still there. It was still thumping. It was still shaking the floor. It was still doing everything that it needed to do. So then I thought to myself, how deep does this subwoofer play? So I played a 20 hertz tone just to see if I could hear it at normal listening levels. And I could easily hear 20 hertz coming from the subwoofer with the volume on my AVR set at minus 30 dB, which 0 is reference, and so minus 30 dB is 30 dB off of that. So actually just normal listening levels, nothing extreme or anything like that. And sitting in my main listening position, I could hear the 20 hertz tone. So from a home theater standpoint, watching movies, it plays loud and it can play deep. But then I moved on to listening to music, and I paired this in a 2-channel setup with my Rendell Sound 1723S, but I also grabbed my own KEF Q150s that I have right here because I wanted to hear how this subwoofer would pair with its own brand. I have to say, it does sound better with the KEF speakers compared to my Rendell Sound 1723S. So if you have a pair or a set of KEF speakers, I think this is a good pairing for you. But I wanted to confirm that this sealed subwoofer would play like I expect a sealed subwoofer to play, i.e. nice, tight, punchy bass when you're listening to music. And I have to say, this does deliver. Now, I did level match the subwoofer with the speakers because I was running a little bit hot when I was watching movies, because I generally run my subwoofers about 3 dB hot or so when watching movies, but I brought it down for listening to music. And even though this has a big 15-inch driver, it didn't overpower any bass heavy music that I was listening to. But when I moved to music that doesn't really have any bass, like I listened to an old gospel song by Mahalia Jackson, I think it was Just a Closer Walk with Thee from, like, you know, the 60s or 70s. And that song really don't have any bass. This didn't play at all. But then once I moved into bass heavy music, this thing plays, but it starts and stops like you want it to stop. And it has the added benefit of knowing that it's going to play down to 20 hertz. So at least 20 hertz. So this really does play all the different bass notes, and it plays them nice, tight, and punchy without overpowering your speakers. So from a music standpoint, this also fits the bill. So overall, I do recommend the Kube series from KEF. I was a little bit skeptical about the power rating, but they have proved that I should not be concerned about that, which is a good thing. I mean, this thing easily plays, 110, 115 dB at reference level, but it also plays nice and deep according to their specs. They say 20 hertz. This will give an audible 20 hertz sound. Now, the main issue with this is going to be size for this particular subwoofer, but they offer all of the other subwoofers in the line. So you just pick the one that fits in your room. Now, me personally, I would go for the 12-inch, mainly because it's about a 25% reduction in cabinet size compared to this. I think it's like 16 inches or so in all dimensions, while this is 20, but it still plays down to either 22 or 24 hertz, one of those. So it still plays nice and deep. So that would be the one that I would choose, but you should choose the one that fits for your particular setup. But if you are looking for KEF subwoofers and you want a subwoofer that's going to match the decor of your speakers, especially if you have KEF speakers, these work well, and they do pair well with like the Q150s and I'm sure the other speakers in the KEF lineup. But if you have questions, drop them in the comment section below. I will try to answer them. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to purchase this or anything else, use those links in the description below. Definitely hit us up with a thumbs up, subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.